I was looking for joy and happiness in getting that job or getting to that next place. But I would get that job, I would get to that next place, I would reach that goal, but joy, happiness eluded me.
This is Journey to Point B, where you can find success stories of people who have achieved the same goals you're striving for. I'm your host, Lucia Chomo, and it's my hope that these stories will provide motivation for your own journey to Point B. Let's begin. Hi everyone, and thank you for joining in for another episode. My guest today is Chaz Horn. He is a dad, Christ follower, dog lover, and founder of a thriving business where he's helping establish small businesses instantaneously, growing sales through tweaking their process and fine-tuning strategies. Chaz has managed to do something that a lot of us can relate with, is going from surviving to thriving. Chaz, welcome. I'm very honored to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Lucia.
Yes. I'm curious, Chaz, if you can start us off by giving us an overview about where you were, the struggling, to where you are, the thriving.
Sure. Like most people here in the Western world, I wanted to get the job and have the career. And I thought if I just get this job or get this thing or get to this place or have this house, I would have happiness. I wasn't thinking in my head, Lucia, happiness, but I was thinking a meaningful life. But I had an event that changed everything for me. My mom died, my dad died, and I didn't realize what I was going to do with grief. I didn't understand. So after their death, I could no longer suppress my feelings because it was just too strong. And I went to a very dark place in my life. I was extremely depressed and I lost all hope. And at that point in time, I went through a divorce and I was sitting there back in 2004 thinking, life is meaningless and I need to do something different. But I just didn't have the wherewithal or understanding of what to do. I was praying, I was crying out to God, but there was just this void. I was stuck in my head with focus on all the problems I had, and I didn't understand the grief, the bereavement that I was going through at the time. That's where I was. I was surviving, barely.
What sparked the desire to change, to do something different?
Right. Well, at that point in time, I had 2 young kids, and being a dad meant everything to me. And so I knew growing up with a dad who disappeared, I thought he was actually dead. Everyone did. That's a story for another time. But knowing that when they were born, I thought to myself, and I said, you know what? I'm going to love Tyler. That's my son. He's 26 now. And Jamie, I'm going to love them the way that I never was. And so here I was at this place, surviving barely, and I got to do something different. And I didn't know and understand what to do. I came across a counselor because a lot of people were telling me a lot of different things. Oh, you're struggling with this, or you have this, and they're labeling me with all these different things. I would go to a doctor and they would just want to throw drugs at the problem. So I met with Fran, and this is important. If you want to get to where you want to go, you need to be at the place or hang around or be with the people or learn from the people who are already there. And so I met with Fran, and Fran said, Chaz, you don't have this, and these are all the labels that the doctors and everyone else, all the professionals were saying that I had a problem with. She said, you're struggling with bereavement. You lost your mom. You lost your dad. And so she helped me walk step by step by step through the process. And that got me out of that darkness. If you know that Simon Garfunkel song, hello, darkness, my old friend. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing to you all. But I was literally, that song would come on and I could relate to it. And if you can relate to a song like that, you're probably in a pretty dark, bad place and you need to get out of it. So I was realizing this. So Fran helped me start to process and make changes and do the things that I needed to do with process my emotions. And so I got out of that dark place and I put on 55 pounds. I looked at myself in the mirror one day. I'm like, man, Chaz, you're fat, you're depressed, you need to make some changes. So that was an illuminating moment in my life. And with Fran, I took some steps and I got partway out of it. And I started to get into a job that was okay. And then I doubled my income. But there was just still something missing. I was looking for joy and happiness in getting that job or getting to that next place. But I would get that job, I would get to that next place, I would reach that goal, but joy, happiness eluded me. And let me define joy and happiness. So happiness usually is, hey, we get this one thing, and so yay, I got this, but then all of a sudden that would fade. Joy is something that's long lasting, that's not just because you get to a place. And so I think happiness, but really what I was pursuing is joy. And having joy in your life is part of thriving. So I continued with my career and I continued to move up. I started my business in 2016 and it was no longer starting my day or going into Sunday night hating what I was going to do the next day. I had purpose and meaning because I started my business doing what I loved. And it wasn't selling a product or service because that's what my sales career was. And I was successful, but I learned my why during this entire process, Lucia, was to help people see their potential and help them realize it. Typically, our why comes from a pain from our past. I never thought I had potential. And when I started helping people as a sales manager see and realize their potential, it gave me a lot of joy. And so I started moving in that direction from surviving to thriving. But then in 2016, I had an incident, which I'm not going to go deep down a rabbit trail here, but it was one of those things that happened in my life that if I didn't deal with it the correct way, I wouldn't continue moving forward in my journey. I wouldn't continue to grow. And so at that point in time, this is where the actual shift happened. And I realized that Fran had helped me, Staus is her last name. She had helped me in so many different ways, but I still had a lot of things past, a lot of shame, a lot of different things that I never dealt with. And so at that moment in time, I invested heavily into listening to podcasts, reading books, getting coaches, with the science of behavior, understanding who I was, my identity in Christ. And so I was going through all these different things and going through these programs and listening to coaches and talking about my shame openly. I learned a real cool thing during that time is when you talk about your shame, it loses its power over your life. Yeah. And so as I started doing this, then all of a sudden I got really, really sick. And in bed, 6 weeks, I was in bed more than like 3 months, but I remember 6 weeks in, this is the turning moment. I had all these little steps up until now, and this was kind of the icing on the cake. I was sitting there and I'm like, oh God, I'm giving you my business, I'm giving you all this. I don't even know how I'm going to get through this. because I didn't have the strength to get out of bed. And I remember at that moment in time hearing, it wasn't an audible voice, but it's like, you can see, you can hear, you can taste, feel, you have all your five senses. And I remember at that moment in time, it wasn't my deathbed, but I was pretty close. I was thinking, man, I can see, I can do. And at that moment in time, it was like a light switch was flipped, and gratitude and joy filled my life. Even though I was deathly sick, I started to focus on all those things I had and got to do, as opposed to thinking about the things I didn't have and the things I had to do. I have a quote that came out of that. Joy doesn't come from getting what you want. It appears when you appreciate all that you have and you get to do. So that was the journey from surviving to thriving and doing numerous. It wasn't just one of those things. It was all these things combined. But that last moment when I started to be grateful, it went from head knowledge, gratitude, to heart knowledge. Those small little things. I realized if I don't appreciate and I'm not grateful for those small little things, I'm never going to be grateful for the big things. Does that make that's kind of the journey that I went through from surviving barely to thriving.
Thank you for sharing that, Chaz, and so vulnerably. What stands out to me is that when you were surviving, the definition of thriving was to get the material goal. And then realizing that when you got your business, you realized that that was actually not the thriving. Thriving was when you were able to shift and appreciate the business that you have already built.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I was so sick. I'm like, at first I got really nervous and anxious. And then finally I'm like, God, okay, here's my business. Take my business away. I don't know what's going to happen in my life. I'm just going to trust you with this. And by letting go of that, because I was hanging on, is it the material things, the business, these different things. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to accomplish things. But when you put your whole purpose and expectations of having fulfillment because of getting to this next level, it's emptiness.
Yes. So I already kind of understood what was your biggest barrier. It seems like it was mindset. Would you agree?
Yeah, big time.
So what do you think helped you, Chaz, to even get there, to be able to recognize and overcome that?
Wow. Yes. There's so many different little things. Here, let me go to something that I learned during this process that really helped me tremendously. I was facing that one time in my life that was really a paradigm shift that really helped me change my perspective. Feeling and processing your emotions is such an important skill set that I didn't have. And so I came across, I think Garrett White is the person's name. He didn't come up with it. Someone else did. He gave me this 3D process, three-dimensional process to, when you have a thought, because going back to 2004, it was focused on, oh my gosh, I got my mom's dead. I went through a divorce, and all these different things were happening, and I was just focused on the problem. And I was like, no, God, help me. But fast forward in the three-dimensional process, helped me identify, okay, you have a challenge, you have a problem, you had an incident, maybe somebody said something to you. This is for everyone out there. You identify the story you're telling yourself. A lot of people say, you are where you are because of the story you tell yourself. But it's like, okay, that's right, but what does that mean? So when we go through a problem, we're telling us a story internally. And a lot of times we don't recognize it. I didn't for most of my life. And I started to understand how to hear the voice in my head, my subconscious, what it was saying to me. So it was telling me a lot of different things. You're an imposter, you're a failure, you're all these different things. So you have to identify that. That's the first dimension. the 1D. The second dimension, and this is 90% of the battle. The second dimension is, what are the facts without emotion? That's when we say, okay, here's the fact in this situation, here's another fact, and here's another fact. Okay, good, I get it now. And I take out the emotion, as difficult as that is. So I've identified the story I'm telling myself. Like, for instance, you're an imposter. Okay, what are the facts? A, B, C, D. I'm just thinking about something that happened recently. I had a guy who was sending me hateful texts because he didn't show up to a meeting. And there were some red flags there. So I told him I wasn't going to reschedule. And he kept sending me these texts. And so at first he sent me hateful texts. I'm like, oh man, something's wrong with me. I'm an imposter. So in this incident, I'm speaking about something that happened recently, explaining how it is. I said, what are the facts? Well, I thought something wasn't right with this guy. The way he communicates doesn't seem common. It's a little strange, weird. And he didn't show up. He didn't reschedule. And so he wasted my time. He wasted his time. And then all of a sudden he's having some hateful language. Okay. So that's facts without emotion. Then the third D is, what if the opposite story is true? To use this example, Lucia, it's I saved myself a lot of time by not rescheduling the meeting with him, and I nipped it in the bud, so I'm not going back and forth with emotional drain. And I've learned I'm in a place where I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm not going to be yanked around by other people that are trying to manipulate me with their words. And so that's the 3D process. And I gave it to you for something that happened recently, but that's what I started to do. As I started to have these emotions that would take me to a dark place, I would constantly take those emotions through that process, and they would come out the other side cleansed. They would come out the other side healthy, and it would go from darkness to light. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yes. Thank you. And I like how you gave us a very nice structured way for us to put it into practice with examples. I think it's very useful.
It's life-changing. I use it all the time.
Yeah. It's all about taking that time to really be mindful, explore our thinking, because it can get into our way of really achieving what we want. Chaz, I'm curious if someone that you care for deeply would be in the same place, stuck as you were when you felt, that you were surviving. What would you tell them to speed up their process to get to thriving?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, that would be the 3D process would be something that I would talk to them about. Definitely. And take it through so they can start to do that. Now, typically when someone starts that, they still haven't developed the skill set because they're not identifying the story they're telling themselves. Get around someone who, whether it's a therapist or a counselor or a coach. And I mean, there's a lot of counselors and people out there that are not good. Okay. I mean, that's true with any area of life or this or whatnot. Get around people who have worked with people in your situation. And the great thing about this, Lucia, is, I mean, you could just YouTube search. That's where I started. I started YouTube searching. How do I deal with, or how do I change my emotions? Kinds of behavior. Why do we think a certain way? And I would just go into all these, like I remember I was going through like impact theory with Tom Bilyeu, and they would have like, guy's name, I can't think of his name right now. He wrote the book Supernatural. He was talking about meditation. And so I was like, oh, good. So I would get his book. And so there's a lot of people like that where I listen to a podcast. I get the book because of the podcast, and I started to learn. And if you focus and see yourself in the future a certain way, then if you do that, it will break the shackles and chains of your past, because most of us operate because of our past. And because of that, we keep in bondage. And when we can shift from thinking about our past to how we see ourselves in the future, then we'll start acting on how we visualize and see ourselves in the future. But just start YouTube searching. In Chat GPT, you go to Chat GPT. How do people deal with this? How do you deal with this? I have this problem. What are some of the things that I can do? And start getting around people who are at this level. As I was YouTube searching, these people who are at the next level, they started giving me some ideas and some practical suggestions. And then that opened up opportunities to other things. So start focusing on solutions as opposed to, like I was, is focusing on the problems. There's an old quote, I can't remember who it's from. When you take your eyes off the goal, you see the obstacles, and if you focus on the goal, then the obstacles become something that you don't focus on and you don't readily recognize.
That's very good. So do the 3D process, identify where you are, then find support, whether that's through a person or through what's already widely available on the internet, and then visualize you achieving that. That's
seeing yourself in the future, doing that.
Yeah.
If you can, I'm just starting to do this more and more with meditation and visualizing the different things. It's very powerful to see yourself in the future a certain way.
Yeah, I was recently listening to an athlete that won the Olympics. She was saying that she had 15 minutes scheduled in her calendar on a regular basis where she would just visualize the race, a race that she's never done before. And she says that this was the thing, like one of the most important things that she could do on top of training to get to where she went.
You want to hear an interesting, quick on that exact topic of visualizing? Okay.
Yeah.
So Ed Milet was a very good college baseball athlete, and he didn't go to the pros. He had an injury. When he had this injury, the coach had him focus visualizing the ball coming in, the ball outside, a curve ball. And I don't remember how long each day he was visualizing this, but he was out for like 6 weeks. When he got back in alignment after his injury, he was a better hitter because he spent that time in his mind visualizing all these different pitches coming in. That's where he would spend his time. So it is powerful.
That's one thing that I love about neuroplasticity. It's all about that practice. And with that practice, we can actually change the structure of our brain. Yes. And then get back on track and being even better when we took a break. So Chaz, if someone from the audience wants to grow their business, needs support in sales and launch their business, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
Sure. Well, I guess there's a couple ways. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Chaz Horn. I'm very easy to find. And just mention Lucia, the podcast. That's one way. Or you could just go to B2B, like the letter B, to the number B, like business to business, B2B clients now.com. That would be, you could put your name and email address in there. And if you do that, then you can register for one of my live events. And so that's a real easy way to join and be involved in something. I do 2 audio events each and every week. Yeah, so B2B clients now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chaz. I really value your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been an honor to be here, and much success. Wish you much success in your podcast. I know you do a great job. I know you've already had some really good interviews, and I can't wait to watch and listen to some of the other ones that you've had.
Thank you, Chaz. I really appreciate your support. Bye-bye.